Good afternoon for those of you who are online, potentially good evening and or good morning, because it's a global event. First, let me start off, of course, by acknowledging that Carleton University resides on the unceded and traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people, for which we are extremely thankful. My name is Dr. Anita Basu. I'll be your moderator today. And to kick things off, we're going to get things exciting. I'm going to give a little bio for our PI, Dr. Nduka Otiono. So Dr. Antonio is an associate professor of African Studies and English, and he's also the director, as I'm sure most of you know, of the Institute of African Studies. He's a former journalist and general secretary of the Association of Nigerian Authors. He has authored and co-edited 12 books of creative writing and academic research, including The Night Hides with a Knife, which I just want to do that every time I kind of see it, which is the winner of the Spectrum Prize for Fiction. His recent book, Displaced, the Poetry of Nduka Otiono, won the African Literature Association Book of the Year Award for Creative Writing. And he was also a finalist for the Archibald Lampman Award for Poetry. So, of course, there could be no better person to lead this QE project, which is aptly titled Her Own Room to Write, than Dr. Antonio, who I welcome up.
Thank you very much, Bonita, for that very warm introduction and welcoming me to our event. I really appreciate that. I would also like to know there couldn't be a more suited person to flag off this than Bonita herself, because before this QS, she had led a different QS program. I would also like to know that we have representatives of Universities Canada that are here today, and thank you for being here. I decided I had written my remarks, but I changed gears. I was like, how could I be talking about these scholars when they're present and be speaking about themselves? But I wanted to quickly highlight a few things because it talked about me shedding light on the achievements of this event and of this project. When we started out, we thought about how best to reach out to early career women scholars in West Africa, where the call focused. So the QS moves across different geographies, and then in our cycle that we applied, when it was Onita Stone, it was African-wide, and then this time it was West Africa. So we thought, because having been a journalist and had tremendous experience about how things work in the continent, and I think in most places, I thought about how best to reach women while bypassing the gatekeepers. And so we devised a project that we thought was bottom-up. And we said to invite the scholars to apply, and when they succeeded, we'll get back to their universities to support them. That way, the patriarchs, for the most part, not many universities, in fact, hardly any universities are easy like Carleton, where you have women fully represented at top management levels. And so this had a different kind of implication. More so, we thought about what would be the ideal focus of this project. And we realized that as scholars, and as early career scholars and women, one of the most challenging things dates back to Virginia Woolf's novel that some of you may be familiar with, Her Own Room to Write. And we thought about this as Her Own Room to Write, to provide an ideal space as much as possible for these women scholars to work, to come away from sometimes the distractions of career and everyday work, and then also sometimes of family and other obligations, to just provide, a safe and great space at Carleton to do this. And we're excited at the end when ours was one of 11 projects selected across Canada for this cycle. And the scholars arrived in their brilliant colors and their beautiful colors on our campuses. And some of you may have seen them these past 3 years. The project ends December this year. And we thought that we couldn't just let go, because especially in Africa, life is celebration. We celebrate almost everything. We celebrate birth, we celebrate death, we celebrate naming ceremonies, and we mark almost every milestone with celebration, and life is celebration. And we felt that given the challenges we had, especially visa barriers, and I don't want to go into all of those details, but just to highlight some of this, we happen to be one of the more successful projects across Canada with this QES, and I think the Universities Canada people have a broader perspective than we do. But I was surprised when I was speaking with a colleague recently to learn that another university that had over 30 scholars had only 3 scholars with visas and sought a 1-year extension. We applied for 17 scholars and we got 15 visas. And I think it's also a testimony to the standing of Carleton University and to the networks that we have built and the experience we have researching in Africa that we managed to pull that through. And unfortunately, 2 of our scholars are unable to make it because they couldn't fit and they couldn't get visas. But I think on the whole, we feel very gratified that we're able to score this much. The scholars have arrived. We have 2 in residence, and they're the final of the 15, and they're here today. And we have yet another scholar. So what we want to do is to give you a sense of the kind of research that they have done. One of them, while on this program, has completed a revision of her monograph from her PhD, and we feel so excited about that. Others have gone ahead to develop their academic publications. Some are still in the process of finalizing them for publication. In all, we received over 350 applications from West African women, and that speaks volumes. These are women who are in their late PhDs, postdocs, or who have obtained PhDs in their first 5 years of teaching in the university. And I was, despite being a journalist and quite experienced, I was shocked by this number because it's so easy to assume that there are challenges about education in our communities, but until you get into a project like this and see the astounding work women are doing, you will not fully appreciate how they rise above the challenges in our communities to be able to do this. I am very excited about this event, and I welcome you to this celebration. So having done that, and I thought that was a quick one for me, as much as possible, because I love to speak, as some of you know, I have the honor of also inviting someone who has, followed our work, closely soon after she took office. And without the kind of support that we get, the Institute of African Studies is housed under the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences and Faculty of Public and Global Affairs. Yes. Yes, so for some of you who don't know that, it's because the name has recently been modified. It used to be Faculty of Public. So some of us are still stuttering with, the full name. And we have the Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, Dr. Nduka here, to endorse this event and also to lend the official Carleton University support for this project that has allowed us to go into the 3rd cycle of successful application for it. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Nduka.
Good afternoon. I'm very happy to join you here at the Queen Elizabeth Advanced Scholars Program End of Year Project event. Today, as Nduka has said, we celebrate the remarkable work of our scholars, their transformative research, and the profound impact of the Queen Elizabeth Scholarship Program, not just on individual lives, but on communities around the world. I'm particularly excited about this year's theme, Her Own Room to Write. I won't try to say it in those words because I won't say it right. And I'm really eager to learn about these boundary-pushing, solution-driven projects. From exploring gender roles in cultural heritage in Benin, to tackling malaria prevention, to enhancing AI and business education in Nigeria, to supporting Black entrepreneurship here in Ottawa. Each project showcases the power of research to create meaningful change. The projects remind us of the critical role that collaboration, innovation, and shared knowledge play in addressing some of the world's most pressing challenges. My most sincere congratulations to our scholars, Gloria, Selena, Chima Obam, Jane, and Helena. Thank you, scholars. Let's give them a round of applause. I also want to acknowledge Nduka, our project principal investigator and director, whose leadership has been essential to the success of this program. Under his guidance, the Institute of African Studies continues to be a leader in fostering critical research that deeply engages with African histories, cultures, and contemporary issues. African Studies not only prioritizes rigorous scholarship, but also champions the power of community and interdisciplinary collaboration. The opportunities provided by the Queen Elizabeth Scholar Program amplify this work's transformative potential. So thank you all for joining us today. I hope you feel as inspired as I do by the incredible work of our scholars, and I look forward to the exciting discussions ahead. And I'm going to hand things back over to Anita now. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. This one's on? Yeah, great. All right, so I'm the moderator for the event. So I'm looking forward to all of the really exciting talks, and I don't want to keep talking because that's just admin stuff. But just a couple of housekeeping notes. The speakers have 10 minutes for their talks. At the 9-minute mark, I will be holding up the 1-minute sign. At the 10-minute mark, I will be holding up, it literally just says stop, all right? We have time for one, maybe two questions, but probably just one to keep on within our timeline. For those of you that are online, and 3 of our speakers are online, I will be typing in the chat box for the one, I'll hold it up, but you may not see it, so also the 1-minute warning in the chat box, and the stop in the chat box as well. And I will just interrupt you if I need to, so let's not make that happen. And just another final housekeeping mark for those who are here, there are bathrooms, male bathrooms that way, and there's female bathrooms, kitty corner on that side if you need to use them. With that final note, we will get started, and our first speaker is online, and that's Gloria Stephanie Boko Agbo, who's going to be speaking on the impact of gender roles on the tourism promotion of cultural heritage. Thank you, in WIDA. I was really pausing there. All right, so welcome, Gloria.
Thank you, Monica. Mind and Cultural Heritage from Université d'Abomey-Calavi, Benin Republic. And this paper I'm about to present is taken from one of the chapters of my thesis. It's titled The Impact of Gender Roles on the Tourism Promotion of Cultural Heritage in WIDA. It's the result of research work carried out during my scholarship at Carleton University. The presentation plan is as follows. First, justification of the subject. Second, methodology. In third, results. And to end this presentation, the conclusion. The research is based in WIDA, ancient slaves deportation port. The town is located in the south of the country with a coconut fringed coastline, a lagoon, and a vast protective mangrove reserve. Its storied past makes it a veritable cultural melting pot. Tourism has its origin in the Grand Tour, a journey made by young aristocrats in the 18th century to further their education. The movement spread to other social classes with the Industrial Revolution, which enabled people to travel further afield, and the introduction of paid vacations, which gave people more free time. There are many forms of tourism, but cultural tourism is the most popular worldwide, highlighting the cultural heritage of the country visited. There are 2 types of cultural heritage. The tangible cultural heritage with built museums, monuments, tourist sites, parks, natural areas, and intangible cultural heritage with songs, dances, craft, gastronomy, and rare skills. As I said at the beginning, WIDA is a city with a rich cultural heritage thanks to its past and its geographical position. It's one of the country's top destinations. Considered arrival of Vodou, Benin celebrates the little-known stigmatized religion on January 10th of each year. This year, the government has set up an international festival around these feasts to promote these aspects of our intangible heritage. Intangible cultural heritage is the perfect way to create emotions and memories for tourists thirsty for discovery and new sensations. Whether tangible cultural heritage plays an important role. In recent years, a number of buildings and historic sites have been renovated by the government or by wealthy individuals keen to keep the town's memory alive. But apart from a few dances performed at large-scale events, intangible heritage receives little attention. Yet, it's an essential vector for the transmission of our history and tradition. Women are involved in safeguarding, transmitting, and promoting intangible heritage. They are responsible for educating young people and instilling community tradition and values. They pass on intangible heritage skills such as culinary arts, basketry, pottery, indigo dyeing, salt making, and so on. The methodology employed in this research consisted on three stages: data collection through literature review and field surveys, data processing and analysis using the MACTOR method. MACTOR is a model created by Michel Godet to analyze the influence of actors on their environment. Analysis of the results enabled us to identify the roles played by women in the development of cultural heritage in the Wida commune. On the one hand, traditional roles, and on the other hand, roles related to the modern society. In addition to these roles, women have other responsibilities that they carry out on a daily basis, helping to pass on and enhance our cultural heritage. Here are a few examples of women in roles that enhance our cultural heritage: maintenance of sanitation of community tourist sites, souvenir making, passing on customs and tradition to younger generations, passing on know-how, heritage preservation. In this picture, you can see priests and followers of the Vodou religion at the first edition of the Vodou Days Festival, January 9 and 10 of 2024. Here you have a group of women playing drums during a community celebration. This is a function generally reserved for men. Finally, you have a young girl preparing salt in the traditional way in Jebadi, a district located between the lagoon and the Atlantic Ocean in Wida. Women in the community play an important role in the promotion of local tourism through their involvement and the enhancement of cultural heritage, particularly intangible heritage. We need more inclusive management policies that involve women and develop their potential and skills. But it's also important to educate people on a massive scale about the notion of gender equality because women are upstream and downstream of cultural heritage, influencing its survival and sustainability. Thank you for your attention.
Is that on? Okay. Thank you very much, Gloria. We have time for some questions. If anyone has a question to ask Gloria. I have a question, so I'll start off in the meantime. So I understood like some of the examples that you gave for intangible heritage. So like you mentioned culinary, salt making, basket making, and sewing skills. But I was a little lost on how the intangible heritage leads directly to the tourism side. And I was just wondering if you could clarify that a little bit for me. Thank you.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, definitely. I was just wanting to know if you could clarify how the intangible heritage part that you were talking about. I was a little bit lost on the connection to the tourism directly. So maybe you could just clarify that.
Okay. In Benin, Ouidah is a big cultural city. They have many events and festivals. And for example, the Vodou Festival is in the anterior years, it was not a festival. It was just a celebration that we used to do on the 10th January each year. Since Vodou is a really big, let's say, yes, it's the biggest religion practiced in the country. And our government has built this festival to bring more people, more festival goers in the country. And this year, for example, we had about 100,000 persons at the festival. So that increased the tourism in the city. Also, the art of salt making is a very appreciated activity for the tourists in the city. And many people, when they come to Ouidah, they ask to participate to this activity with the women of the village.
Okay, thank you so much for your for your answer, and we're going to move on to the next speaker. I think we do have one question for each speaker though, but we'll have to wait for the rest till the end to stay on time. All right, thank you. So our next speaker, I have it here, is in person. So hopefully that'll help. So it's Selena who's going to be talking on Malaria Matters, looping the children into the conversation. So welcome.
The PI, co-PIs, dedicated faculty mentors, the community of builders, our placement partners, co-create for one, invited guests, and distinguished fellow scholars. My name is Selena, and I want to thank you for this privilege, and I'm going to be using this privileged space to share my burning thoughts, some ideas that are jumping off in my head, and to see if I can get some expert opinion and see how to facilitate these thoughts in my head. So the title of my presentation this morning, or sharing of my thoughts, will be Malaria Matters, looping the children into the conversation. The purpose of the presentation, one, primary objective is to seek expert input. Secondary, to facilitate necessary refinements for the successful implementation of these ideas that are coming up in my mind. And the end point is the full community engagement, because I had some experiences that I'll be sharing within the time space that I have that is making me to see the whole community as a classroom and not just a confined space. So I have an outline, but I'm not going to go through just the way it is, because I'm going to be telling a story, and I want you to follow my train of thought to the story. So this story is going to happen in Africa, Nigeria, and in the middle part of Nigeria, normally called the North Central, Benue State. And this circle is Otoko, where I am, and where I want to carry out this expression that is coming up in my head. So here we have the map of the world, the globe, and we're seeing Africa having the largest portion of malaria burden, right? Then we bring it down to Nigeria. What is the current status? In the last maybe 10 to 15 years, Nigeria has carried the heaviest burden of malaria in the whole world. And the latest WHO statistics, 2023, says that 26.8% cases, 31.1% cases, all from Nigeria. But I can stand here and tell you that in the community where I live, a lot of the statistics or what is happening in the community is not captured in this data. Because when the babies come down with malaria and the mothers just go to the patent medicine store and buy something and give their child and the baby dies, nobody captures that. So it's likely higher than what we're seeing here. So why am I transitioning from wet lab to the dry lab to the community as a classroom? 99% of the parasite biomass is in humans. It's just 1% that is in the vector, the mosquito, Anopheles family species. So I want to focus on the human beings. So on April 25th, 2023, I braced up, faced my fears, and took on the community where I live and work. Gathered primary school students, invited some schools, some secondary school students. And here is the reason. I was just thinking to myself that Africa is teaming up with the population of young people. Why don't we bring them on board? After all, every minute a child dies of malaria. Age 0 to 5, the group that is one of the most vulnerable risk group. Why are we leaving them out? So I gathered them together and did a malaria presentation. And after the presentation, there was a Q&A section. Then the little girl about the age of 8 put up her hand, and I gave her a chance to ask me a question. And what was her question? She goes, "Ma, what do the mosquitoes do with the blood that they take from us?" And I thought to myself, wow, at age 8, this child is a critical thinker. I think I've gotten my audience here, the people that are going to help me to bring down the burden of malaria. That's how I got it from launching the DAYS call. DAYS just means diseases A to Z. So the idea is, in the community where these people are, what's the local specific challenge that they have? How can we contextualize it and bring these children on board to drive down the burden of these diseases? So the next thing that I did was to do a pilot survey. And I've got these malaria books for children from kindergarten. There's one that has a song that I can sing, okay, all the way to grade 6. And then there's this one for health clubs, Malaria Smart School. So I'm thinking to myself that, okay, if I bring this intervention and I use the pedagogy of education and train these children to get the right information about the diseases that is affecting them in their community, they can take home the message to their parents. Because you know what happens when a teacher says this is black, the child will go home and say, "Mommy, my teacher said this is black, so it's not white, it's black." So I want to leverage on that. So I got all of these books, and then I did a 1-month intervention. 2 schools. One of the schools had the intervention. The other school didn't have the intervention. So we wanted to see how effective this intervention would be. So we did the pre-post survey, focus group discussions with the children, and we got very interesting results. They are coming out there with my statistician, but that's not what I want to share today. So I discovered during the pilot survey that the children were intellectually very alert. They were critical thinkers. There were people, that were a group of people that I could work with, instead of the adults that we have been working with. And when I shared this with my mentor, she was like, "It's very compelling. The adults have been doing it. Why don't we bring the children on board? It affects them more." So I wanted to bring them on board because looking at Africa, I looked at the statistics. And in by 2050, Africa will have like 850 million youth. By 2063, the workforce on the continent of Africa, half of it will be young people under the age of 25. Half of the continent. The workforce will be represented by youth under the age 25. And I'm thinking to myself, it's time to give them a voice. It's time to give them a vote. It's time to bring them to the round table. Not only bring them to the round table, but give an expression to their ideas, not just on paper. So what am I seeking? And why am I using this privileged space this morning in this great learning space? 1, to seek for models and methods of looping the children in as, 1, knowledge bearers for course-correcting contextual misconceptions. And I'll give an example. When I was working with the children, I found that during the focus group discussion that when they have malaria, they're not running tests, and they're taking the malaria medication. Once they get better after 2 days, they stop. They don't complete the dosage, and this is giving us what? Resistance to these drugs. Okay, it takes years to get a drug of choice that will not have so much side effect. So we have the challenge in the community. Once I told the children, you have to complete your drugs and you have to run a test, they took it back home to the parents. So when they find me in the community, they go, this is the malaria lady. And the parents come to me and they're like, oh, you were the one that told our children that they must take their medication and complete it. Yes, sir, yes, ma'am. Thank you. We didn't know. Now we know. So you see that the children quietly, in a very subtle way, are driving home control measures that have been there age-long, but haven't been as effective. So if we bring them on board and give them some smart, malaria smart kid T-shirt and face cap, and they're going all over the place saying, this is what you need to do. Mom, you need to take me to the hospital. I need to run a test before I take any malaria medication. And I need to finish my malaria medication. That's what the malaria lady says. Then we're going somewhere. So the second thing that I wanted them to join me to do is to also help me to co-create the content that will be used to drive down. Like they can create music with very strong vibes and sing their song and dance around and get the message across to the whole community. Then I want them to be social actors. I don't want them behind the scene anymore. We want to bring them on board. So this morning I'm using this privileged space to say, in the generation, the architecture of generating knowledge, where we find ourselves in the academia, in the ecosystem of knowledge generation, what should I call it? How do I name it? How do I show and tell it like we do show and tell for children? How do I capture it? How do I document it? And why is this important? Because as soon as I did this, under the umbrella of the Pan-African Mosquito Control Association, other countries began to work with students in school. And even Rollback Malaria is doing something with malaria and schools now. So it started from somewhere very little, but it's spreading. And I'm wondering, how do we capture it? How do we concretize it? Thank you very much. I'm done.
Well, you did have 1 minute left, but that's great. So because you have 1 minute left, you definitely have time for one question, because you gave your space. Is there any questions? Yes, there's a question from Eloise. Farhana's just going to give you the mic because the people online can't hear without the mic.
It's Selena. Thank you so much. I feel you didn't end your sentence. You said, how am I going to capture this co-creation and contribution in the knowledge ecosystem? Please go ahead and tell us how.
So the reason I'm here today is, how am I going to capture it? So like I said at the beginning, that the purpose of this presentation is to get expert input. Already having met, one of the things that this QES opportunity has done for me is to help me to meet people and network. Monica has introduced me, and Diane has introduced me to a lot of people, and the web is growing. So meeting Paul, we were sitting and talking, and Paul was like, okay, at the end of your presentation, ideas are going to come. Anybody who is interested, they're going to make input, and we're going to do a concept note. So I have a page opened on my computer already to do a concept note. I'm not very keen about the Health Education Club because they haven't worked well. If we're going to reproduce that, then we have to call it another name, an action name that the children would love and key into, and the parents. So the community is not saying, oh, they've come again, we did this before, it didn't work. So we want to sit down. I don't want to spend 10 years thinking about this. I want to go into the community and engage the community and just start. And one of the reasons why I'm thinking this is still a thought, it's still at the thinking stage, is because in a classroom, if you have 30 children or 40 children, and you engage the children, you're engaging parents from the diverse sectors of life. That's where the multi-sectorial engagement comes in. Instead of me going to the religious bodies to say pastors.
You have to wrap up your answer there.
Okay. The engineers or medical doctors. In one classroom with 30 kids or 40 kids, I can have engineer parents, I can have the market women there, the peasant farmer is there, and this message can just go into the community in those channels. So the ideas are there, but they're abstract, and we want to concretize it with expert input. Thank you very much.
There we go. Thank you. No, there's no more time. All right. And Nduka told me to keep it on time, and then he wanted to ask more questions, but we have to stay on time, so we will move forward. On to that, we'll move on to our next speaker, who's in person, Ijoma. He'll be talking next. I'm going to struggle with your name, so I'm just going to say Ijoma. Integrating artificial intelligence in business education, exploring the role of self-awareness. I think we're all super interested in anything related to AI these days as it's moving at such a rapid pace. So welcome.
Good afternoon. I am Chimobim Ijoma Nendu from the Department of Business Education, Ignatius-Ajuru University. And I'm also a Queen Elizabeth Scholar here at the Institute of African Studies. And I'll be presenting on the topic, Integrating Artificial Intelligence in Business Education, Exploring the Role of Self-Awareness. And I'm standing on existing protocol, so please excuse me. Yeah. So integrating artificial intelligence in business education, exploring the role of self-awareness. I'm going to start with a backstory. So I just got employed last year as a part-time lecturer in the Department of Ignatius-Ajuru, Business Education, Ignatius-Ajuru. And I walked into a class in December, and there were 200 students, or should I say less than 100. And then I started this introductory class. And I'm coming back in January, and there are 500 students. And I walk into the class, and I stand by the door, and I'm like, is this class for me, or is it for someone else? And I go in, I am not with a mic, okay? And I'm wondering, okay, what am I really doing with this? Because this looks like a crusade ground than a class. And at that point, I stand in front, and I'm looking at the students, and most of them are still trying to, figure out if I was the lecturer or I was just part of them trying to make an announcement, right? And then I stand and I say, okay, keep quiet. And I move to the middle, and the ones in front, we are not hearing you. And I go to the back, and the ones, in front, no, please, you have to come to the front. And I'm like, okay. So these actually, this experience underscores the challenges most educators face in Nigeria, where infrastructure and resources are limited. So that made me realize the importance of self-awareness as an educator, understanding my needs, my teaching style, and how to adapt to the environment I find myself. So artificial intelligence. So being here on the campus in Carleton, of course, this is not a new concept. Artificial intelligence is no longer a distant reality. Oh, sorry. It's no longer a distant reality. It's something that is very common in every sector. So whether you're in the airport and you're using the facial recognition tool, or in the medical sector, or actually learning a language online using Duolingo, these are all AI application systems. And so we have generative AI systems as well, the Gen AI. We have the ChatGPT, we have the Copilot, we have the Gemini, et cetera, et cetera. And so what then is self-awareness? Self-awareness is just the ability to think on my own thoughts, the ability to recognize my strengths, my limitation, and adaptability in teaching practices. So in the story I shared, that could have actually just been a case of, okay, I'm ending the class, but I needed to project my voice. Of course, I had to project it, and I screamed, and they listened. But of course, for me, that was actually a scenario that I could point to with the fact that you need to understand the situation in which you are. Maybe you have prepared for a class and you walk in and there are no AI tools, or maybe even you go and the internet is limited. At that point, what do? It now lies on human intelligence. It lies on you to actually know how to adapt to the situation you find yourself. So why does it matter for AI? Educators with high self-awareness can identify the best AI tools for their specific instructional needs, ensuring effective implementation. And we're not trying to say self-awareness is the be-all, end-all at this point. But we're just trying to say that if you have high self-awareness, you can identify the best AI tools, and maybe you would actually be better positioned to use these AI tools and to be able to actually know when to do the switch, or when to know that, oh, wow, I am not better suited for this. And to understand that maybe if you underuse or misapply this AI, tools and application, it can actually limit its benefit. So, of course, I haven't mentioned, but this is an ongoing research, and the purpose is actually that we are looking to explore the role of self-awareness in enhancing the integration of artificial intelligence in business education programs in Nigeria particularly focusing on improving instructional delivery. And I must mention at this point that we are actually looking to carry out this research in Nigeria, South Nigeria, but we're also making sure that we can transfer the results to similar contexts. So I will do a little literature recap at this point, and I will say that effective instructional delivery is at the heart of educational success. So at this point, whether or not you're using the best AI tools or you're using whatever, the goal is that we are looking to actually make education compatible for all, effective for all. And so AI in education has been widely studied for its potentials to improve learning outcomes by personalizing learning experiences. So now let us look at the gap in literature. The gap in literature here is the fact that maybe we have studied AI. Of course, AI is like the rave, and everyone is talking about the fact that AI is helping out in different contexts and in different sectors. But when we talk about AI in business education and now factoring in the role of self-awareness, to the best of my knowledge, this has not been widely researched. And of course, this gap is particularly critical in the Nigerian context where AI adoption faces socio-economic and infrastructural challenges. So we now look at the link between self-awareness and AI. AI requires educators to not only learn new tools, but to assess how these tools fit into their teaching styles. And self-aware educators are better positioned to navigate the complex dynamics of integrating AI into their curricula, ensuring it enhances rather than disrupts their instructional approach. So I have a working conceptual framework here. And we see self-awareness. And now, we are not saying that self-awareness is the starting point. What this conceptual framework actually is showing us that just maybe you are so self-aware, you are so aware of your situation, but there are external factors that would actually, counteract the whole scenario. Just maybe you may actually not even have support from your institution and you cannot do it alone. And maybe even the fact that there are some people back in my country who maybe have embraced AI, but they're like, I'm just used to doing things the way I want to do it. Please leave me alone. And you can't blame them. And just maybe that they have actually embraced change, but for some people it's like, as it was in the beginning, so it will be what? In the end. And even after you have actually decided that I want to use these tools, the Gen AI, we have so many conversations, that are surrounding the fact that, okay, would the students not be lazy and all those kind of things? But then the end point is what? Effective AI integration. So all these factors come into play, and this is a working conceptual framework. So when we talk about the methodological approach, it will be a qualitative research, and we'll be using in-depth interviews to gather insights from educators in Nigeria. And we are looking to use 15 to 20 business education faculty members from South Nigeria. And of course, I will be attending a qualitative method seminar, highly recommended by my mentor here, Diane Isabel, very highly recommended actually, which would help me to further refine my interview techniques and data analysis strategies for this research. I have registered, and if I didn't, Diane will have me. Yeah, but I'm hoping that I'll learn so that I can further, improve my interview skills and qualitative research skills and analysis skills as well, to help me refine and work with, the business educators that I'll be looking to work with. And so I would be looking for your feedback, I don't know, on whatever areas. Maybe the conceptual framework maybe doesn't resonate with your experience, or maybe it does. And maybe the research design, you feel like there should be additional factors that should be considered. And for most of you here, the practicality of this research may not be so relatable, but you're actually looking to discuss whatever. I'll be open to receiving your feedback. Maybe not here, maybe after the meeting. And then for the potential challenges that may arise in measuring self-awareness, I have actually thought of that, and I'm looking at working with the self-awareness skills. But if you have much more ideas that could help bring this research to life, I would be very happy and welcome to receive them. Thank you so very much for listening, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
That was right on time. Awesome. Good work. So we have time for one question at the moment. So if anyone from the floor has a question they want to ask. No? I have a question, actually. One, I'm terrified. I thought I was not going to be terrified, but now I didn't know we've been moving into self-awareness in AI. And I don't think you took it from the terrifying lens that I'm taking it from. But can you give me one terrifying self-awareness example that you could see within a school setting in particular, and how it would affect pedagogical learning?
Okay, so is it on the path of the lecturer or the professor or the student?
Anyone you want to choose it from.
Okay, maybe I would actually go to a very different context, which is the medical context, okay? So imagine you walk into a hospital and then you have done a test, right? And you come with your test result and you ask your doctor, please, this is the result I got. And he goes on ChatGPT at that point, and it's like, I'm coming. And he collects your result, and you're doctor, what about this? And it's like, sorry? And you're like, wait. At this point, are you my doctor? I could have just sat at home with this test result, and, so at that point, we actually are taking into consideration the human being. Is he aware of the situation that is happening, or is he just, AI? That is where we're coming from. So this, I hope, is a terrifying, situation.
Yes.
Thank you very much for listening.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And our next speaker is Jane, who's also in person. The role of indigenous African agricultural tech companies in enhancing productivity and sustainability for smallholder farms in Kenya. So welcome to, she's getting set up, but welcome to Jane.
So while she's just setting up, I wanted to remind us that these scholars have undertaken this research with different placement partners. The program is arranged, the project is arranged in a way that there's community partners. Some of them is here. Okay, this is New Life Inc. With Brenda, who runs the project. It's an NGO in town. But we also have faculty mentors, and one of them you see referred to constantly here is Diane. And they come from different disciplines. As you can see, these presentations, Diane is in business, but we have people who are in agriculture and so on and so forth. I'll just fill in for you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. We've all been taking you to Africa. Most of the presentations have been in West Africa, but I'll move quickly to East Africa now, because I did my placement at Africa Trade Desk, which is a consultancy firm. And then at the time I was there, I was their researcher in residence. They had a brief to provide advisory services. They're in Ottawa here, but they had a brief from the Kenyan government to provide advisory services on digital solutions that will be adopted in Kenya. And so they engaged me to be part of that research. And so after the brief research, I decided that I would do a blog article out of my experience and what I saw. So I came up with this title, The Role of Indigenous African Agricultural Tech Companies in Enhancing Productivity and Sustainability Implications for Smallholder Farmers in Kenya. Okay, so that's the structure of the presentation. I'll move quickly because of time. By way of introduction, we know that agriculture is a very important sector in Africa, but that African farmers face a lot of challenges. For example, unpredictable weather patterns, limited access to markets, and poor infrastructure. And so the agri-tech companies are emerging as key players to help address these challenges. My goal in the blog article I intend to write is to see what kind of solutions these indigenous Kenyan ag-tech companies are offering to smallholder farmers and to observe some potential advantages of them playing in that space, and then what kind of challenges could also exist there before discussing the implications. And so, like I said, it was a market research. It wasn't an academic research. I tried to gather information to understand the business landscape. It was exploratory, informal, qualitative approach. I started by scanning the website because I was here in Ottawa, so looking for the agri-techs that had presence on the website. I managed to see about 24 of them, 24 indigenous ag-tech companies working in that space. Initially, it was supposed to be for tea and coffee, but we had to expand our space, the space when we saw that we were not getting just that. So eventually, I saw about 24 of them. And I tried to, the goal was to contact them to set up meetings, understand what kind of solutions they were offering, and from there know which of them we could recommend to the government. And so we tried contacting them formally and informally. Unfortunately, it wasn't a very successful experience because we used the web forms, the email addresses to contact them, prompt them, nudge them. There weren't a lot of responses, unfortunately. And eventually, we even had to go into LinkedIn pages, Facebook, just to see if we could make some informal connections and get them. Eventually, anyway, we were able to meet with 3 companies, look at what they had, and tried to talk to them about a few issues. Confidential. And so after that, I decided to do a literature review to look at what I was seeing or what I had spoken to them about and what was in the literature before analyzing and then writing up the blog post. And by way of findings, I saw that some of them were offering combo services, so like a bouquet kind of service where they are offering both access to farm inputs at discounted prices and helping them with also access to the market and all of that. But some others were just concentrating on one type of service, for example, maybe online marketplace for farmers. I had some observations because we asked a few questions on data privacy issues, and it was obvious that it was going to be a big issue because some of them were allowing third parties like insurance companies to access the data of the farmers they have. Talking about the advantages of having indigenous ag-tech companies operating in that space, I would say that one of them is trust. So because they were indigenous African companies, it was easier for them to, establish that trust with the local farmers. They were people they knew, they could speak their languages, so the solutions they brought was very easy for them to adopt. I could also see that the potential for building local capacity was there because financial literacy increased because of the kind of solutions that were being accessed, and then women too, the digital gap between men and women, I would say, was enhanced. In closing, it was enhanced because a lot of smallholder farmers are women, and so giving them access to mobile phones, mobile platforms helped build capacity. Cost effectiveness was also there because it was cheaper than the ones we see being offered by corporations. And then by way of challenges, I think there were some unfit solutions. Some, for example, most of the solutions will focus on monocropping, but on ground, you see a lot of people still doing mixed cropping. Funds would also be a challenge in adopting these technologies. That would be for the farmers. But for the ag-tech companies, there were challenges on scaling up. So while they have limited funds, so scaling up their businesses was going to be a challenge. And then infrastructural challenges like network problems. I don't know if you knew there was a time in Africa that the whole communication system was down. So these were some of the challenges I observed. Very importantly, because I always use a gender lens in my research, I try to look at some of the opportunities that could exist in that space in achieving gender equality. And I saw that having worked with the Bank of Agriculture in Nigeria, I knew that one of the issues that was existing was that sometimes loans are dispensed to women farmers, for their agricultural input. But then their men force them to divert these funds. But the way some of these digital solutions are structured in this space, they wouldn't advance the money to you. They would advance it to vendors who now advance the products to you. So that helped reduce the diversion of loans. There was also increased access to information and resources for women with these solutions. There was enhanced networking and collaboration, but it also depends on, there is room for that, but it also has to be intentional to bring the women into these spaces. Of course, there was reduction of time burdens for women because some of the activities they were doing before that were time-consuming were shortened. But for the challenges on achieving gender equality, I noticed that because of this reduced diversion of loans, it could lead to some increased cases of sexual and gender-based violence because the men will become more aggressive because they are frustrated that they cannot take the loan they expect from the women to come to them. Of course, there is a lot of literature on the interaction between technology and job losses for women, mechanization and job losses for women. And then the issue of cultural and social norms are still there. We could talk about that all day. But these are the challenges I saw. As for possible implications, while it looks like it's African indigenous companies providing these solutions for smallholder farmers in Kenya, I'm worried about the potential connections to powerful global conglomerates. And I'm concerned about the exploitation, dependency, and trust that could bring. So right now, these are startup companies working in that space, but there is also, we know that a lot of big corporations try to acquire or merge with some of these companies. So that is an easy way to just get into that space. There is erosion of traditional knowledge in favor of resource-intensive farming practices. Most of and almost all the solutions provided are geared towards resource-intensive farming practices. I had flagged the issue of data privacy concerns and the risks with misuse of sensitive information, including financial exploitation. And so in conclusion, while the indigenous African tech companies are making giant strides in enhancing productivity and sustainability, their interventions can also pose some potential challenges like I highlighted. But understanding these nuances will help stakeholders mitigate these challenges and balance technological advancements with traditional knowledge and practices. I'll be happy to take any questions we have, and thank you for listening.
All right, I saw a quick hand up in the back right there. Yep. If you want to ask yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that really interesting presentation. I'm wondering whether there's any information that you have gleaned about why you didn't get very many responses, and so some possibilities float up in my mind. One is that the companies have gone out of business, right, and the websites remain, and it's kind of they're kind of not very stable as businesses. Another might be that they're in competition with each other and they don't want to share information with anyone. Another might be that they're so small and on the ground that they're not, really, anyway, not really responsive, and maybe that also has gives some perspective on whether they would be eaten up by the larger industrial agriculture companies. But anyway, I'm just wondering whether from the interactions you were able to have, did you get any insight into why the others were not responding to you? Thank you.
Thank you for that. It was interesting to find that. So we presume from the interactions that they were not responsive because they were probably small. Because when we start making connections with the informal networks, so going to the LinkedIn pages or Facebooks, we found out that some of them were designated in an official capacity in a different company in their LinkedIn pages, even though we were seeing them as team members in the company. So my conclusion will be that the internet gives us a space to showcase ourselves, right? But it may not be our real selves. So it was probably their part-time or hustling, I don't know. So because officially you may see them working in a big tech or in a university or somewhere on their LinkedIn, on their Facebook, but then you see them as team members in these other places. So I think that could explain it, but we were not getting responses. Yeah.
Great, thank you. All right, thank you. And our final speaker for the afternoon, and then we have more stuff happening, is Helena. She is online. Hopefully we will have no tech issues, because, third time's the charm, right?
Hello,
Okay.
can you
Oh,
hear
great.
me?
Yes, we can hear you really well. That's awesome.
Right. My name is Helena,
But wait,
and
sorry, 1 second. We don't have your slides in front of us.
that's because I am not going to use a slide.
Oh, well then, that's perfect. All
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Continue.
So my presentation differs a little bit from the norm established by my colleagues. In terms of content and outlook, of course, I don't have a presentation slide, and also because I'm not going to be talking about research because I've been, working on research, reviews for publications, and doing a comprehensive field. So I wanted to deviate a little bit, and that's what I'll be doing in the next 10 or in less than 10 minutes. Right. Mine takes more of a personal post QEX experience and my journey into commodity history. When I applied for the QES in 2021, I indicated that I was in my first year of my PhD and still trying to figure out what I was doing within the field I'd chosen, because this was a relatively new field for me. And the expertise and resources in the department, because it's a new field, it wasn't well established, and so I struggled a little bit. But coming to Carleton University last year changed the space for me. It puts me in conversations with people who, with geographers and historians, people who knew what I was doing, and they offered interesting insights, new perspective that I looked at my work from. And so I'm excited to say that work, the PhD work I was working on when I came to Carleton last year, is in the final stages of being submitted. I indicated to Prof. Nduka last month that I'm almost submitted, which I haven't, probably because now I'm doing a comprehensive field and there are new debates, new discussions, and I'm not too sure if what I wrote in that dissertation, I want to submit that. But I think I need to submit and get expert opinion. So there was that. And now, once I was able to have that conversations with people, I began questioning myself, how do I want to take my research to? Am I looking at just focusing on Ghana? What kind of intersectionalities am I interested in doing? Is it a research for just Ghana? And I realized, no, my research goes beyond the boundaries of Ghana, because I'm looking at forest cover change, I'm looking at land use dynamics, especially in a global scene of climate change and how tropical deforestation affects not just Africa, but the entire world. And so I decided to but begin a second PhD that has direct focus on environmental history. And fortunately for me, I had a professor at University of Saskatchewan. He agreed to work with me. And so here I am here currently in my first year doing 3 comprehensive fields in global environmental history, decolonization, and history of health and medicine. And I say that the last few weeks in this program has opened me up to several debates, new directions that I had not initially thought of. And so that is a good and positive news for me. And not just me, but also because, like I mentioned, I'm looking at the intersectionalities. So I moved from forest cover change in my first PhDs because I talked about cocoa in there. But when talking about cocoa in my first PhD, it ended just with cocoa. Now I've moved into commodity history where I'm looking at how did cocoa, for example, transform ecology in Ghana? How did it transform the economy? And what was the benefit of cocoa, not just to the Ghanaian or the Gold Coast economy, but also in the global world? And so you look beyond Ghana and you see this entire British Empire and how commodities would run from cocoa from Ghana, you'll have spices, pepper from India, and you'll have sugar from the Caribbeans, all connecting together. So that is the new field my research is moving into. And for me, being able to express myself in this new direction gives me what QES did for me. It has now made me a global scholar where I'm looking at how do my research connect with, for example, Saskatchewan, which also at the time between the 1900s was emerging as a global producer of wheat. So what is the intersectionalities? What is the connections between Ghana and Saskatchewan? And that is the approach and perspective I'm looking at. The other bit my post-QES experience has done is also in terms of what I personally call confidence, reclaiming my confidence. I had my BA, MA, and first PhD all in the same institution, the same department from 2013 up until 2024, August, when I left Ghana. And sometimes the danger of being in one place is that you fail to see that you are deserving of the opportunities that comes your way. You fail to acknowledge that you've been groomed to take on new challenges, and that imposter syndrome creeps in and you begin to question your place in the department that has groomed you. But winning the QES, I realized, no, it means there is something more to me than just Kumasi, than just the department. There's an international scholarship, and Prof. Nduka mentioned that they had over 300 applications for the entire 3 years. And so to be selected meant that I had something that would need a little more grooming. And so the QES helped me to reclaim my confidence, to believe in my abilities and capabilities, that I have what it takes. I've been groomed well from Kumasi and I'm now ready for the world. And that is why I find myself in the Department of History in Saskatchewan. And lastly, this is more of a personal again. It's how when I visited Carleton, I realized that there was a great balance between work and career. No, not career, I mean work, career, and life. They don't put the two together. Once a professor is done from the office, he goes home to his family. Family time meant family time. And I realized that with my supervisor here, Professor Jim Clifford. I sent an email once and he told me, Helena, I'm on vacation with my family. I'd respond to you in 2 weeks. And I was like, okay, you don't do that in Ghana. Even if it's a weekend, we respond to emails. So how do I position myself in a way that I give my all to my career and also give my all to my family? And that's one thing I've learned from the QES, to be able to balance the two, so that in every areas of your life, you are giving out and also ensuring that one is not in deficit at the expense of the other. And although I said I'm not going to talk about research would creep in finally, because I have about 3 manuscripts I'm working on for publication. And I would say that they all go back to my QES experience in Carleton University last year, because they offered me the space to really think beyond submitting a PhD dissertation and looking at how I wanted to take my career to. So the first one is under review in African Spectrum. It's a chapter of my PhD thesis, my first PhD thesis, which looks at the role of traditional leaders in forest governance in Ghana. The second one The second and the third one are with my current supervisor, which we are looking at a bibliography of global commodity history. I think it's a book project from Oxford University, and so we are working out a bibliography for that. And the second is a paper we are working on for the European Society for Environmental History. They have annual conference. Next year, it's happening in Sweden, and so we are trying to look at the role of infrastructure in cocoa growth. How did infrastructure, say railway and ports, contribute to Ghana's, cocoa growth in Ghana and making Ghana a global producer of cocoa? So that will be all from me. Yes, thank you. Sorry for not having a slide.
We didn't need a slide because that was a really excellent description of all your experiences that you've had in the last couple of years. Is there any question for Helena? No? All right. Okay. So first, let me just thank all of the speakers today. It was really wonderful, and I love the diversity of all of the talks, so a little round of applause for there. And I can tell that because Nduka has stood up that he wants to take over. So that is totally fine. I'm just the moderator. So Nduka, the floor is yours.
You're still the moderator.
Oh, I'm still moderating.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Onita, for anchoring this very interesting segment of the presentations of this afternoon. I can add more about the diversity of the research these scholars are doing and how much we have been blessed at Carleton University to have them. And what you have seen this afternoon are just slices of the work of 15 scholars, some of whom, many of them are online. So we would very naturally segue into, if you look at your program, a docu presentation. But since, especially from the personal angle that Helena has started, I'm so thrilled to see that Helena is back in Canada on a different level, and so the conversation continues. I would also like to note that one of the scholars won a Fulbright scholarship to US, and she's currently there. What I find very moving about the experience of being a PI in this is that I've gained 15 families from being the PI. And from these 15 women, and I'm sure they're going to do great things, and we'll hear more and more about them. But the other interesting part of it, and I thought somebody wouldn't like me to mention that, is that we also gained 2 children in the process.
No.
So we have two QE, Carleton University QES babies. The babies chose to arrive in Canada while their mothers were here. And we call them QS babies. So what we want to show and to give you more insight into the broader QS scholars is a short documentary. But it's not a documentary in that kind of sense. We just have the speakers, the participants, just show their faces and talk, very briefly. We plan to make it pretty short so that we can just move on to our lunch and networking. And then shall we roll? Thank you. Good day, everyone. It gives me great pleasure as the Principal Investigator of the Queen Elizabeth Scholarship Advanced Scholars West African Program 2021 to 2024 at Carleton University, Ottawa, to offer my remarks at this end of project seminar and networking event. This is an occasion to celebrate our distinguished early career and late doctoral women scholars from West Africa who, for the past 3 years, have lit up our beautiful campus with their brilliance, warmth, and bright West African colors. Today marks an important milestone indeed, as it provides us an opportunity to share with you snapshots of the incredible journeys and achievements of these women scholars, working with our dedicated Carleton faculty mentors, commended placement partners, and supportive community builders. Thank you for taking our time to join us in this celebration. May the ancestors continue to light our paths. Ishe.
Hi to the Wurrun Rubuntu women. Congratulations on your participation in the Queen Elizabeth Scholarships Program. for advanced scholars. I'm so pleased I could play just a small role in helping you pursue your research goals. Please stay in touch. Keep us informed of your futures.
Congratulations to all of the QE scholars who participated in Her Own Room to Write. I have heard so many wonderful stories, successes, challenges, excellent opportunities, networking, and I wanted to say thank you to everyone who participated. It was great to meet so many of you. Congratulations.
Big congratulations to everyone involved with the QES program at Carleton's Institute for African Studies, Her Own Room to Write. I've had the pleasure of being a mentor of a few of the QES scholars from West Africa, and I've engaged with many more, and it's just been a pure delight to meet these scholars and get this opportunity to forge some strong networks of scholarly connection and to see these young women prosper in so many different ways. Well done, congratulations.
I want to congratulate all the scholars who participated in the Queen Elizabeth Advanced Scholars Program here at Carleton. It has been a wonderful program, and I've been so thankful to be part of it. What amazing, bright, courageous women they all are. But a very, very special opportunity for me has been working with Claude Winnie Pefole-Futson. Claude Winnie has been an inspiration for me, and I know she will go on to do great things. It's been so wonderful to be part of the Queen Elizabeth Scholars Program, and I thank you all.
Hello everyone, it's Brenda from New Life Project Incorporation, a non-profit organization. It's been quite a beautiful connection with each and every one of them. They have brought a lot of input into New Life Project. I really want to thank the ladies. I miss you already. The doctors, Sophia, Eugenia, Ajwa, Zainab and Gloria. It's been a lovely connection with each and every one of you. God bless you all.
Congratulations to our QES scholars. I'm truly honored to have worked alongside with such a dedicated and amazing group. Your passion and commitment have been truly inspiring, and I feel fortunate to have had the opportunity to contribute to this amazing journey with you. I wish you all the very best. Thank you.
I was part of the 2024 cohort. QES was a great experience for me. The slogan of Her Own Room to Write resonated so well with my experience on the project, and the networking with other females from the continent had really enhanced my research interests. Thank you.
I was in Carleton and Impact in Abidjan for my researches. I was very happy because I'm a woman and facing a lot of challenges for research. I was engaged in some networks, and now till today I take advantage of the mentorship of our profs and all that, and also an occasion for me to let people know about my books, and I'm very proud to be part of this program. Thank you.
I give credence to the QS Fellowship for giving me this platform to be able to become a better researcher. And I want to say that it has informed me as a person, it has informed my career, and it has really gone a long way to make me who I am today. I really appreciate QS program for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much.
I am one of the scholars who participated in Queen Elizabeth Scholarship Program 2022 cohort. The program has actually contributed immensely to my career development. I appreciate Institute of African Studies, Carleton University, for the opportunity.
I was part of the Queen Elizabeth Advanced Scholar West Africa 2022-23 cohort. I had a very, very lovely experience on the program. As an early career scholar, the program brought a lot of visibility that I did not even expect, not just for me, but also for my institution. And I was able to expand my network of researchers, of people. It was really, really a wholesome experience. I had a great time. Although the time was kind of short, it was just 2 months, but within those 2 months I was able to achieve all the goal I set, which is quite important for me as a mother and as a early career researcher. So it's a great experience. I'm immensely grateful for the opportunity I had to be part of the program.
I want to say that QES was a wonderful experience for me and my colleagues. It was an opportunity to meet women, like-minded women who shared the same vision, and it was an opportunity to expand my professional network as well as engage in meaningful research. Thank you very much.
The impacts of the Queen Elizabeth Scholars, to me as an individual and also as a scholar from Ghana, has been tremendous. I loved every bit of it. It has been great, opening greater doors for me, and I urge everyone out there to take advantage of such programs because your career is going to be accelerated onto the next level. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I thank God for the opportunity I had to be part of the Queen Elizabeth Scholars Program last year. Through the program, I was able to complete my PhD thesis. I also had the opportunity to interact with other scholars from other countries. The fellowship was just awesome.
I am currently on my Queen Elizabeth Scholarship term, and so far it has been wonderful and really fulfilling, and I look forward to the rest of my stay. Thank you.
Je m'appelle Geda Chetaoudim Parfer. Ma participation au programme Bourse de la Reine Elisabeth m'a permis d'améliorer mon savoir-faire dans plusieurs domaines de la recherche. Grâce à ce programme, hormis mon propre domaine de la recherche, je peux développer mes compétences dans plusieurs autres domaines de la recherche scientifique. Je remercie nos dirigeants, nos encadreurs et tous ceux qui ont participé afin de mener à bien ce projet. Merci.
It's been an incredible learning space, and I've been able to grow my network, and the web is still growing. Thank you very much.
I bring greetings from Lagos, Nigeria this morning. The QES program enabled me to build strong relationships all over West Africa. The QES program also helped me to hone my organizational skills. Right now, I was able to organize about 14 programs, and I recently concluded a massive community engagement program that was a huge success. I wish each and every one of us success in our future endeavors. Congratulations. I wish you all the best.
All right, everyone. I know there's a note that it says we're going to do open mic, but I have been looking at the food, and Nduka's been looking at the food, and we've decided, you know what? Let's do food and conversation. So we will kind of just make the open mic more of a fluid conversation. So on that note, I want to just thank all of the speakers again and everyone who made the videos. What a wonderful end of project event this was. And a big, huge round of applause for Dr. Antonio for shepherding it with Farana as well, his project coordinator. So thank you, everyone. Okay. On that note, please help yourself to food. Thank you.